Hello everyone. In this recording, I'm going to be doing things a bit differently. In prior recordings, I have talked about how to build your own PC, what the parts do, and which parts are good. This time around, I'm focusing on other PC consultants. My reasoning for that is because I am tired of seeing people get terrible advice or PC consultants acting elite. What I mean by acting elite is that they tell me that my opinion doesn't matter because I don't have a degree. My opinion does matter. I have 15 years of experience building computers or consulting on a PC build. All of my work has been for people who have a budget of 1200 or less. This covers the mid-range gaming PC level. So I want to share my experience and knowledge with you so that you know when you're getting bad advice or you need to change things up with the consultant. Let's get started with Google Documents. In almost every consultation that I've done, I have used Google Documents. I do that because I want the customer to be able to see my reasoning for each individual part on the list. Also, so if the person decides to share this with a friend or another consultant, then they can see what I did. At that point, it makes it easier for the customer to know that I put a lot of work into it and made sure to give them the best advice possible. Let's go into hardware now, starting with the power supply unit. I've had this up on the screen for quite a while. Um, this is a fully modular power supply unit. In a lot of the consultations that I've done, I have noticed that other consultants do not list what kind of power supply unit they're using. When I'm working on a build, I'm always considering the cost and cable management. Cable management is, I think, important to a PC build because it makes it easier to know where the wires are, and also makes it a very clean PC. So if you'll notice with this, the fully modular power supply unit has no wires sticking out in the back. Now let's look at a modular. A modular does have some wires removed, but for the most part, it has this mess going on right here. From what I've seen, fully modular is more expensive than modular, so sometimes I don't get to work with this, but if I can, that's what I try to work with. Um, let's cover the power supply tester. I have the Thermaltake Dr. Power 2. Um, the reason that tools like that are so important is because it reduces um, the amount of guesses that you need to figure out what's wrong with internal parts. The railings or um, other wires on a power supply unit can fail during its lifetime. The other wires may not be affected. In the build that I had prior to this, um, the railing failed, but all the other wires were working. So it's hard for me to tell why the computer couldn't boot up. When I took the power supply tester to it, I saw the problem right away and knew that I needed to replace the power supply unit. It's a very powerful tool. Um, let's move on to hard drives. This one's been in numerous recordings prior. We'll get to that in a second. Um, let's talk about solid state drives first. A lot of the parts listed in other consultations, I have noticed that they are fixated on doing um, a RAID formation using solid state with a hard drive. The thing that these consultants get wrong more often than not is that when you RAID a solid state drive with a hard drive, it slows down the solid state. So if you want to use a solid state with a hard drive, that's fine. Just use them as separate hard drives. Don't RAID it. Or another option is that you could get a single drive and just run that. If you're going to be doing that, my recommendation is a Seagate FireCuda. Presently, it's the only solid-state hybrid drive out there with high ratings and a good service record. Solid-state hybrid drives are 4 to 5 seconds faster than a normal hard drive and 1 to 2 seconds slower than solid state. They're very powerful. As I was just mentioning, PC consultants are fixated on using a solid state with a hard drive. That's one of the main reasons that you probably haven't heard of a solid state hybrid drive. It's because people are trying to do that. Let's move on to the motherboard. This is another issue that I run into on other PC consultants' work, and also an issue with PC Part Picker, this website that almost everybody uses. What the problem is this right here. You'll notice under the memory for this motherboard, which happens to be the motherboard I'm using, is these numbers listed under the memory. If you'll notice, there's this right here. It says OC in parentheses next to these numbers over here on the left. That means overclock. This particular motherboard will not achieve that speed of memory unless it overclocks. Now, I have noticed that MSI did not list this properly. 2400 is also overclock. I learned that through this build because I'm using 2400 megahertz RAM, and it's listed as 2133 in the motherboard page. So that tells me that I have to overclock to get to 2400. So I think that's going to be a constant. On the note of motherboards, let me also cover older hardware. A lot of times I have noticed that other consultants are using motherboards and other hardware that is older. A lot of times I have seen it as old as 2 years. Because those consultants don't have a Google document or something to tell me why they did that, I can only assume that it's just bad advice. Usually it is bad advice regardless of the Google document. Now, the reason that you want newer motherboards and hardware is because of new parts coming out. This is an example over here, Intel Optane. Intel Optane is brand new, and I'm sure it's not going to be the only new one. Intel Optane is essentially a stick of cash designed to support a hard drive. It requires a certified motherboard, a certified CPU, and a hard drive to support. So if you're running on older stuff, more than likely you will not be able to use things like this. The other reasoning too for not working with older hardware is because the average lifespan of a PC is 3 years. When you buy a PC, you want to ensure that it's a PC that can last you that long. It's very easy to make it that long, to make it last that long. I'm sorry. My gaming computers have lasted me 5 years at this point on average. That's because I take the time to ensure that I'm putting good hardware in there and also make sure that they're on sale. Now that we've covered that, let's talk about 4K monitors. This is something that I'm starting to notice already. People haven't bought 4K PCs yet, to my knowledge, but already I'm starting to see PC consultants um, talk about what monitors to get and that kind of stuff. If you're a customer, you don't need to know this number. All you need to do is take this number right here and look at the monitor that's listed in your parts and see if they line up. If they don't, then something is clearly wrong. The reason for this is because this right here is the resolution required for true 4K. I'll link this, of course, in the description. Let's move on to um, CPUs and video cards. Like anything in a computer, always check the reviews. In the case of the CPU and video card, also check the benchmarks. Benchmarks are a great way to see if those particular CPUs or video cards will work for what you're trying to do. Um, I can tell you right now that when it comes to gaming, the i7-7700K is the king of gaming. The Ryzen 1700X and 1800X can, in some cases, tie with the i7-7700K. The only time that the benchmarks change is when it comes to streaming. If you're a streamer, the Ryzen 1800X um, can, in some cases, beat the i7-7700K in benchmarks, but that is very rare. Um, I can only recall of 3 games that the Ryzen 1800X um, beat the i7-7700K in benchmarks. Um, I don't remember the name of the other two, but I know one was Grand Theft Auto 5. I don't know why, but it's just what the benchmarks show. Now, when it comes to reviews, you'll notice I pull up this website. This is PC Gamer. This is a great source for reviews. Another one is Tom's Hardware, this website over here. Always check multiple websites for a single part. You want to make sure that you're getting both sides of um, the argument, or in some cases, both sides of the coin. Never take the word of one review. Same thing goes with benchmarks. If you're looking at benchmarks, always check more than one. Um, let's move on to cases and cooling, seeing as they go together. I don't have one pulled up here, but make sure that the case you select um, can support the liquid cooling that you want, if that happens to be your choice. Some cases can accept the larger size liquid cooler, others can't. If it's a mid-sized tower, let me tell you that having a handle on it is, oh, so great. A lot of mid-sized towers are going to be 30 pounds once you start putting in all the parts. If you try to lift that from the bottom, it's not going to be fun. With a handle, it makes your life so much easier. Right, moving into cooling now. Now, when it comes to liquid cooling, it is always going to be more expensive than fan cooling. Liquid cooling, in my opinion, is not required um, for an Intel build. The only time that I see a need for liquid cooling is if you're overclocking or using the Ryzen. They're the only times that I see that. Um, one of the things one of the many things that I have noticed with other consultants is that they'll build a PC for themselves using um, air cooling. The PC will be too hot and they'll just basically say it sucks, never touched again. When it comes to that particular um, scenario, I have noticed the reason for it is because they select a low CFM fan. Basically, CFM rating is a way for you to tell if the fan is good at cooling. There's more technical stuff to it, but I'm trying to simplify it so you as a customer can understand. I will never touch a fan that is less than 70 CFM. The CPU and heatsink that I have in my current gaming PC is 82 CFM. 82 CFM is a really good number, but it can be a little bit overkill. So it all depends on cost and all that other stuff. All right, I think that's really about it. Um, so yeah, just keep this all in mind when you're asking for consultation. Never be afraid to ask questions or get a reason from your consultant. If your PC consultant um, can't give you a solid reason for their choices, then this is another thing to add to the long list of concerns that I've just laid out in this recording. All right, thanks for listening.